Okay. Look at Psalms chapter 9, chapter 9, verse 17. Psalm 9, verse 17. Okay. It says, "The wicked shall be turned into hell, all the nations that forget God." If you wonder why America is having problems, if you wonder why the whole world is in chaos, it's right there. It is right. The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God. Turn to Psalm 33:12. Psalm 33, verse 12. All right. And it says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord, and the people whom he hath chosen for his own inheritance." God loves it when we bless him. We do not, he doesn't like it when we do not bless him. Look at Proverbs chapter 14, if you will. All right? Proverbs chapter 14. Hold on just a minute. Let me get over there. Proverbs 14, verse 34. It says, "Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people." All these verses that I've shared with you, and others as well in the Bible, I could share with you a lot, but I have not. But let me share with you the introduction, and then we'll get right into the message, if you will. On July the 4th, 1776, that's 248 years ago, our forefathers broke their political ties with Great Britain and thereby set out upon the sea of nations. This country, America, began a grand and glorious experiment of human freedom, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Mr. Lincoln exalted that, saying, "Of the people, by the people, for the people." With God's help, ours has been a truly glorious experience as we have influenced our fellow man throughout the world. We have seen, as Mr. Reagan said, we have been, as Mr. Reagan said, a city set on the hill. Let me say something about that. We have a constitution. Other nations throughout the world have followed that, and they have done well doing so. But anyhow, we have called men to a better way of life, a life of freedom. We have influenced our fellow man throughout the world. We have been, as Mr. Reagan said, a city set on the hill. We have called men to a better way of life, of freedom. We have defended that freedom and liberty for ourselves, for others, with both our wealth and our blood. We have not always lived up to our ideals, but by God's grace and even his chastening hand, we have reached great heights of success. This jewel of freedom, this precious and fragile gift. Let me say that again. This precious and fragile gift. We are learning just how fragile freedom really is in our country. But anyhow, where are we now? But yeah, eternal ages. We are learning that. Where did I get to? This jewel of freedom, this precious and fragile jewel that demands that we listen to God, that we obey his teachings, and we do what he says to do. Eternal obedience and vigilance is truly the price of freedom. However, John MacArthur wrote a book several years ago, and he asked a serious question. Can God bless America? I have this little book in my hand. I have lots of his books, but this one little book right here, he asked a question. Can God bless America? He said, John MacArthur. And it's very interesting, the book. However, John MacArthur wrote a book years ago. He asked a question, a serious question: can God bless America? I think if we seriously ponder the question, we have to come up with an answer. We don't want to hear, no, He cannot bless us as He has in the past. There are too many things that we have done. They are and are doing that must be addressed by this nation before God can bless us as He once did. And He wants to bless us, but He cannot because of our sin. All of us as Christians, we have a different mindset. We have a different approach on life than most people in this country does. But we do know this. We know that God cannot bless what is wrong. God will not bless what is wrong. Some blessings of liberty. There is political blessings that are ours. We have a constitution, but it is under attack by progressive. By the way, the word progressive is a word that is being used now a lot, but it is a substitute, if you will, for the word communist. But people who claim to be progressives, basically at heart are communistic people. We have a constitution, but it's under attack by the progressives in this country. We have a Bill of Rights, but those rights are under attack by the same progressives, or the same communists, if you will. We have the power to vote. That power is ignored by too many and is also under attack. We're finding that people who vote are usually are not always honest about it. They're cheating when they vote. And then too, this morning, as we are here in our church, we are doing our best to worship God and all of that. But anyhow, pouring over that southern border is thousands of people. Over 1 million people now have already come across that border, and they are primed up. Some of them are voting, some of them are not, but the time will come when all of them will. So anyhow, we have a constitution, but it's under attack. By the way, too many Christians sit home and do not vote. I remember when I was in college, the president of the university, he said, I'm not voting this year, so I'm going to stay home, pout, and pray. The next guy that got up, it's during chapel time, making announcements and all that kind of stuff. He says, I'm not going to go vote this year. He said, I'm going to stay home and pout and pray. And the other man stood up. He said, I'm not. He said, I'm going to vote. He said, by the way, if you think about where he came from Europe. He came from a bad situation in Europe. But nonetheless, he said, I'm going to vote. He said, too many good men have given their lives for that flag and for me to stay home and vote. So every Christian ought to vote. Every Christian, let me say that again, ought to vote. I don't care if it's for the dog catcher, for the President of the United States. By the way, I hope you listen to the President of the United States even again this week, as he was being interviewed by Mr. Stephanopoulos, if you will. But anyhow, political blessings. We have a constitution. Social blessings, personal property. Ask yourself, do I own this property, or does the government? Do I own this property, or does the government own this property? We have a national and personal wealth, if you will. But do you know what, by the way, do you know what $1 trillion looks like? Now, they're saying that we are at $37 trillion in debt. I think it's more than that, but nonetheless, that's what they're saying. $1 trillion in $100 bills. Think about it now. Now put your thinking cap on. $1 trillion in $100 bills is 678 miles high. Up here. 678 miles high. That's how high $100 bills makes $1 trillion. 300. So anyhow, 337 times that 638 is 24,964 miles of $100 bills. Think about that. We can. I don't know that we will ever be able to pay off that debt. I don't know that we ever will. I don't know if our children's children will be able to pay off that particular debt. But that's the debt that we owe. Think about that. And where did that money come from? Come from borrowing and come from printing and all the rest. But anyhow, $100 bill, 678 miles high, $1 trillion. Education. We have dumbed down our entire educational system. When we had a school at Southside several years ago, toward the end of the year, I would go in and I'd have a magazine or a newspaper or something. And I would lay it down on the desk. Maybe it was a little girl, maybe it's a little boy. I said, sweetheart, start reading right here at my finger, you know. And it was a little girl. And she'd start reading. That was in Miss Peggy's class. We used the phonics approach, if you will. The phonics approach. Explain to these folks what the phonics approach is.
Each letter makes a certain sound, and you put those sounds together and sound out words.
Each letter makes a certain sound. All of us know that. You put all those words, those letters together, and you come up with a sound, you know. And that's what we taught those children, okay? We taught them phonics. And they were able to read. I'm talking about 4- and 5-year-old children able to read. Now, even 3-year-olds knew what the sound was, but they weren't able to put it together yet. But 4s and 5s, particularly 5-year-olds. I was reading the paper the other day, or I was listening to the news or whatever, and it's talking about our particular system that we have now, our system, our education system. And it said that when children are 8 years old, they start to learn how to read. I thought they're already 3 years behind, you know, with their reading. But that's the educational system that we have dumbed down our entire educational system. I watch sometimes people go out on the streets. They'll go to a place like Myrtle Beach, they'll go to a place like the mountains, they'll go to a place like Florence, or wherever at the mall, and they'll say, well, what about this, and what about this, and what about this? And a lot of young people, I mean college young people, have no idea what they're talking about. That is so sad, so very, very sad. So educationally, we have dumbed down our entire educational system. Employment. Both mom and dad are working to keep the household afloat. I don't know how in the world young people today are making it. I really don't. Because if you think about it, what are they? They're having to have a house, they're having 2 automobiles, they're having to pay taxes, they're having to educate children, they're having to buy groceries, they're having to do all those kinds of things, and I don't know how in the world they're doing it. But, you know, they're getting further and further and further, some of them in debt. So anyhow, both mom and dad are working to keep the house afloat. Health care. few years ago, by the way, for years I did not use insurance. I just didn't use it because I thought, I was taking advantage of people and all that. Even though I was paying insurance, I didn't use very much insurance. And I got to thinking several years ago, as I looked at what I was spending for health care and my Social Security, taken out of my Social Security, and I don't make all that much money in Social Security, but I have at least some, But nonetheless, they were taking out a certain amount of money for my health care. Then I was having to buy a supplement from Blue Cross Blue Shield for the same thing. And I looked at what I'm paying for my insurance and Social Security and Pegasus insurance and Social Security, and I said to myself, Seth, don't you ever be scared to go to the doctor again. I mean, just don't do it. I mean, just go to the doctor anytime if you get a hangnail, go to see the doctor. I mean, I'm just saying that health care insurance is extremely expensive, is it not? Extremely expensive. But we still have some religious blessings left. We have freedom of religion, but that freedom is under attack now. Think about this. In America, our religious system, our way of thinking, our way of approaching life, our way of reading the Bible and all the rest is under attack in this country. No doubt about that. We can operate our churches. But can we? Ask a United Methodist. I have a friend who is a United Methodist. It's not a big church, it's a small church. But anyhow, they don't have enough money to do what is being required of them, but they're doing the best they can. But anyhow, ask a United Methodist about that and see what they say. We have evangelistic outreach. Try to spread the gospel in certain places and see what happens. Okay? We have Christian schools. At least we have them for now. We can pray at church and we can pray at home. But don't try to pray outside an abortion clinic in some cities. Already people are being arrested and put in jail because they pray outside of an abortion clinic. And by the way, we can say what we want to all about abortion that we want to say. And Mr. Biden is for it, and several other progressives are for it, and all the rest. But the truth of the matter is we are paying a terrible price. We're clamoring in this country. People are clamoring. People are screaming and hollering and all kind of things going on in this country for the right to kill their babies. I just don't understand that. I just don't understand it at all. I guess I'm just too simple. I'm a simple-minded fellow. But anyhow, that's where we are. But anyhow, we have that. We can, some dangers to our liberties. Militant Islam, and they are pouring over our southern border as we speak. I think it was this past week there was 50 Islamic radicals came through the border, and they're gone. We can't find them anywhere. We don't know where the police don't know where they're at. The FBI don't know where they're at. Nobody knows where they're at. They're in this country now, already now. But anyhow, militant Islam is pouring over our southern border as we speak. Then there's godless secularism. Secularism is a way of life that omits God, if you will. Lawlessness and crime, it is everywhere. Every day, seems like every day now, I'm hearing and you are hearing the reports on the news. Somebody has shot somebody. It's over at Darlington. It's over at Florence. It's wherever, all over this nation of ours. People are shooting one another. They're robbing one another. I was reading the news this morning before I came over here, and I was telling Peggy about it. There was a man who run a convenience store in California near one of the airports. About 50 people, or maybe more than that, they came into his place of business, tore his place of business all to pieces, stole everything from him, and he called the police to try to do something about it, and those people stayed in his store for 40 minutes, tearing up his store and robbing him of his stuff, and the police never did show up except several hours later. They finally showed up. He was just wringing his hands. That man worked hard for that business. That man worked hard to have a place where people could come and buy a Coca-Cola or buy a NAB or whatever they want to buy. So sad for them. But that's the nation in which we live now. But anyhow, lawlessness and crime is everywhere. Sexual immorality and pornography is everywhere. Thousands and thousands and thousands of pornographers are all over this nation of ours. Self-centered materialism is wrecking our nation. The choice concerning freedom and liberty. How to keep that freedom? First of all, by honoring God. Honor God with your life, and God will honor you. Obedience to Him. Be obedient to God. Practice self-control. How to lose our freedom and liberty. First of all, forget God. Did we not read in the Bible? It says, the nation that forgets God will go down into hell. But nonetheless, we can forget God. Laziness and indifference. That's another way that we can lose our freedoms. Practice immorality, and that is everywhere, if you will. God looked for 10 people in Sodom. I was listening to a preacher last night over on Saturday nights. Peggy and I, we listened to the preacher over here at over here. Anyhow, he was talking about it. He said that God didn't destroy Sodom because of their immorality. He destroyed it because there was not 10 people. If 10 people had been there, it wouldn't have done it. But anyhow, God looked for 10 in Sodom. 37% of the colonists were patriots. We hope to get a chance to go maybe Wednesday morning